Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Paul Lober, a volunteer with the Friends of Great Swamp. Thanks for joining us on Zoom today, and welcome to October's second Sunday program. Second Sundays are made possible by the Friends of Great Swamp and by the generous support of the Marta Heflin Foundation. Today, we are excited to hear from George Perez, who will speak about his year-long internship at the Lenape National Wildlife Refuge Complex. As many already know, George has spent a great deal of his time at the Great Swamp, and the Friends, as well as the Refuge, have benefited from his work and expertise. George's passion is herpetology, which is the study of amphibians and reptiles. In July, George did a comprehensive presentation on the snakes of Great Swamp, including photos and insider's information on the Great Swamp's 12 snake species. Just a few weeks ago, George helped the Friends restart the Advanced Volunteer Training Program by providing our volunteers with a masterclass on the Great Swamp's turtles, snakes, newts, salamanders, toads, and frogs. So grab your notebooks and pencils. We know that when George speaks, we're going to learn something new. Please join me. Let's give a warm welcome to environmental biologist, George Perez.
Ooh, snaps. We're good. Hello, everyone. Guys, I also wanted to shout out my father because he's on here too. I didn't get a chance to say that earlier, but thank you guys so much for being here. I really, really appreciate it. To old coworkers, family, friends, and current coworkers, greatly appreciate it. So let me share my screen here and we can get started. Beautiful. Perfect. Laurel, everything is good and everybody can see my screen?
Yes, everything's good.
Beautiful. All right, let's get started. So again, thank you guys so much for coming. Today, my second Sunday talk is going to be about my year as an intern. So for anybody who wants to know how I even got here in the first place, and if you haven't heard it already, I mean, now you can. And if you did, I'm sorry in advance. Basically, how did I get here? So before working with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife, before anything else, my first jobs were always with retail. I worked selling candy, I worked in sneaker stores, I worked in restaurants. I pretty much did anything but what my degree was meant for. But I did a project in my senior class working with Groundwork Elizabeth, and that's where I met a man named John Evangelista. He offered me a position and interview first, and then a position to work with Groundwork Elizabeth as a youth leader over the summer as an intern with them. At one of our cleanups that we hosted over the summer, I met this wonderful human being by the name of Jared Green. He is now the visitor services manager of the Lenape complex. And I spoke to him a little bit about just some common interests. And a couple months later, I had my boss from Groundwork. His name was Jonathan Phillips. He mentioned to me a new position that he had available for me. And that's when Jared reached out to me, spoke to me about this position. And a year later, here we are. So you have a little timeline for you guys on the bottom. So I started off, like I said, as a retail store manager with Snipes, which is a sneaker store. I went to Kane, got my internship with Groundwork Elizabeth, and then now I'm finishing up my internship with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. So a lot of people, while I've been here, they kind of asked what I do, how I do it. And everybody was kind of just curious. And in the beginning, I didn't even really know what my position was because I was doing a little bit of everything. But my technical position with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service is a visitor services and outreach intern. Basically, my position included opening and closing the visitor center over here at the Great Swamp. I worked over at the WOC, which is the boardwalk trails that we have over here for anybody who hasn't been here. I worked there as a walk leader, as an Agents of Discovery promoter, which is an app that we use here to engage with visitors. And I also greeted visitors as well. I created and ran educational programs and trainings like what Paul mentioned at first. In the beginning, we did Friday walks here with other volunteers and visitors, and I was a leader for that. I did trail maintenance. I did a bunch of biological research projects. And I was also a partner with Groundwork Elizabeth. Basically, I guess you could say like a liaison, something real fancy. But yeah, I mean, that was just like a little gist of like the main things that I worked on in this past year since I started. So what I wanted to do for you guys today is pretty much go month by month and get into a little bit more detail about what I did, so you guys can figure out what it's like to be an intern with the Fish and Wildlife Service. So in the beginning, so my internship started in January and it's ending on October 30th. So technically about 11 months. So in January, January was really, really exciting. It was really cool to get started. My first day was January 5th. And I think I just came to the swamp and did some other really cool things that day. But in the beginning, I was able to travel to a couple different refuges, meet everybody for the first time. And I was basically told once I got to the different refuges to explore. And I thought getting paid to hike around trails and do all that stuff was absolutely amazing. And it was a beautiful start to what was a really, really great experience for me here. Throughout January, I also trained, like I said, at the visitor center. I learned how to open and close and pretty much how to greet any of the visitors and answer any questions, talk to them properly and give proper information to everybody. We work with an endangered species called wood turtles, and I was able to visit the site where we conduct all the research over there. I was introduced to bird banding, which I'll be able to talk to you guys about in a little bit. If everybody has heard of lanternflies, spotted lanternflies, I did a walk with spotted lanternflies as well. And the only downfall about January was the amount of meetings that got canceled due to the snow. I got my car snowed in. I have a Honda Civic, so it wasn't really too exciting seeing half of my car filled up with snow, but I got snowed in a bunch, meetings got canceled, and I didn't get to enjoy January as much as I genuinely wanted to. But right here on the left is a spotted lanternfly egg mass. If you guys can see those rows on the bottom of the tree branch, that's what a spotted lanternfly egg mass looks like. And that is what we are showing about 45 people in the blistering cold so that if they see that at their homes, that they'll be able to identify things properly. This picture in the middle is up at Walk Hill. And that trail was overlooking the mountains. And you guys can see pretty much as far as anything how beautiful the mountains are. Going up that trail and down was probably the most breathtaking thing of my life because it wasn't very fun. I was breathing really heavy, and I'm happy that I was alone so nobody else can judge me. And that picture on the right is a picture of me and my aunt. January was a month of positivity because I started my internship, and it was also a month of a little bit of sadness because I actually lost my aunt that month. So went through a lot of different emotions and still had to come to work and perform everything properly. So definitely some ups, definitely some downs, but that's how everything goes. So I was still able to get through that with the help of all the people that are on this call. So in February was just as eventful. I was working on some projects for the first time, which was really, really cool. Things that I've only been talked to about with other professors and other colleagues, but being able to physically do it myself was really, really cool and really exciting. So in February, like I mentioned before, I did some bird banding. So I met with state biologists and we put some GPS backpacks on some ducks and we tracked them pretty much they flew like all the way up to the top of the country and back down. Some of them actually ended up at different refuges. We tracked them all the way to Walk Hill and some at Cherry Valley as well. We also set up some traps as well, and I was able to put up some trail cameras over there. And it was really cool because we were able to see how many ducks were visiting the area that we were setting up the traps at. But it was also kind of crazy because a raccoon actually got in there and killed some of the ducks. So seeing that on the trail camera wasn't very exciting, but I mean, it was still cool and another experience that I could talk about. We also met with Groundwork Elizabeth to talk about building a bridge over at Phil Park. And that's actually finished. So if anybody's ever in the area of Elizabeth, New Jersey, and wants to go check that out, they definitely can. I collected trail counter data. I did backyard bird counts in Elizabeth and also at Walk Hill. We saw some really, really amazing species. The highlights, in my personal opinion, were the great horned owls that we saw. We saw Merlin and a bunch of falcons and hawks. And I also got my first bald eagle ever too. So that was a really, really exciting time. I learned about bees, and I also learned about bird safety, which was really, really cool. So I'll be able to talk to you guys about bird safety in a little bit as well. So this picture on the left is my first time being over at Walk Hill, and the views were absolutely breathtaking. Being over there in person, it doesn't even give this picture justice. It was really, really beautiful. Every time that I went over there, I was seeing something new, and the environment over there is genuinely beautiful with all the work that we do. And this picture on the right is the bee presentation that I was at. That is a bee expert that came and talked to us about how to raise bees in in the bee boxes that you guys are looking at him hold. Perfect. So next was March. So March, again, a lot more new firsts for me. Projects started actually picking up speed, and I was starting to kind of see like, oh, wow, like this is what being an intern for the government is really about. Because in the first couple months, a lot of it is a little bit of introduction, a lot of just training and kind of just like going through things. So a lot of it is really repetitive. But right after you start to learn things, that's when they kind of just push you out there and just said, all right, go nuts and kind of perform on whatever that you just learned in the first couple of weeks of you being there. So it was a little rough, but I mean, hey, I got it done anyway. March included me visiting Cherry Valley National Wildlife Refuge for the first time. I actually led a nature walk over there through a couple of the trails. I had a meeting with my internship supervisor, Jared, and also Anna Harris, which is also one of my other supervisors. We pretty much planned every single day out for the rest of my internship. So pretty much from middle of March to basically now, I've literally had every single day planned out since then. So it was pretty cool to know exactly what I was doing pretty much every single day. I led scout walks with Kathy Woodward, who's also on this call. I saved amphibians from the road up over at Walk Hill National Wildlife Refuge. I did woodcock walks, and I'll be able to show you guys a little video from one of those walks. Paul mentioned in the beginning that I am a absolute fiend for reptiles and amphibians, and I actually saw my first snake with Paul in the month of March, right outside the visitor center. I actually measured a lot of windows during this month, and that was because we were doing the bird safety stuff. So again, later on, I'll be able to show you guys some really cool photos of what I did involving me measuring windows. I had a bunch of meetings and even more meetings after that, whether it was visitor services, agents of discovery, meetings with my bosses or other coworkers. I felt like I was in a meeting literally every single day. And in all honesty, it started to get a little tiring, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this is what my internship is just going to be about. It's just conversating with people over video chats, but I really enjoyed it, and I got to meet a lot of great people along the way. And also on a personal note, I also became an uncle for the second time in March. So my older sister, Brittany, had a baby in that month, and her name is Francesca. You guys will see her in a little bit as well. So this should play a video. All right, so if everybody sees that that green light and you guys see the bird walking right next to it, that is a American woodcock that Pete Axelrod actually led us on a walk. And after that moment, Kathy kind of looked at me and screamed and said, oh my gosh, like this is absolutely amazing. I've never gotten that good of a look at that species before, and this is the first time that you're doing it. So it kind of goes downhill from there. But I'll play that video one more time just in case nobody saw it. If you guys look to the right of the dot, you guys can see the bird moving. And what's cool about American woodcocks, why we actually do those walks in the first place, they have really beautiful mating rituals. We were actually able to see those as that night as well, but I didn't get any video because it was too dark. But I mean, hey, look out for them next March, and you guys will be able to attend those. And I also have this beautiful picture of a red-tailed hawk that I took right outside of the visitor center on the right. So I thought that was really cool, and I was really excited when I got it. So I figured I'd include that, and hopefully you guys can admire the beauty of that as well. And in this one, like I mentioned before, I was at Walk Hill National Wildlife Refuge and I was saving amphibians off of the road. So the species that we were saving was wood frogs, and that is a massive female in my right hand, on the right hand side of the photo. And then I also wanted to play a quick video of the wood frogs that were breeding in this month over at the WOC trails.
We may have an orgy. They escaped. Oh, she's laying eggs.
So that may not look like much to the naked eye in the video, but there were literally hundreds of frogs that were sitting there laying eggs, creating egg masses. And it was really, really a beautiful sight. It's crazy because that only happens for about a week and a half. And then all of those frogs disappear. You pretty much never see them again because they go back into the woods and they hide in leaf litter pretty much until it starts to get nice out again. And then you'll see them every once in a while walking on the trails if you get lucky. So a really, really cool experience and something that I've never seen before and I've only heard about. So it was really, really cool to see that. So the start of April. April usually marks the start of spring for everybody else, but for me, that pretty much meant that my job was gonna get a lot busier. When Jared first mentioned to me the position, he told me that in the beginning it was gonna be a little slow, but he didn't mind that because he knew that he was gonna get a lot of work out of me once it started getting nice out. And, you know, your boss is always going to say that because, I mean, he's your boss, but I should have taken him a lot more seriously when I first heard that statement because there was no shortage of work pretty much from April until me talking to you right now. So I was exhausted 9 out of 10 times that I went to work, but I enjoyed every second of it. Some really cool stuff that I did in April. I did a lot of outdoor exploration. So I got to see a lot of new species for the first time of the year. And I have a couple pictures to show you guys right after this. I actually became Great Swamp famous as I was featured in the swamp scene. I'll show you guys that article as well. There is a white oak trail that is here over at the Great Swamp, and we were doing some trail maintenance over there. I actually got my college degree in the mail that month, so that was really exciting. I did some turkey hunt stuff, more meetings with groundwork. I actually got COVID after that meeting, so that kind of sucked. And April wasn't as fun as I wanted it to be, but I mean, hey, I think everybody went through that at least once, maybe twice if you were as lucky as I was. But I also did some corporate work days and I worked on some more bird safety stuff, which means that more windows got measured. You guys will understand why windows got measured in a little bit, so trust me, it's not for no reason. So if you guys look at all of these photos right here, these were all taken in the month of April. So in the top left picture, that is Handsome. That is our resident gray tree frog that hides in pretty much the exact same tree all the time. That is his home. So if you guys are walking on the middle trail at the WOC, if you guys look on the right-hand side at a bunch of the trees, maybe halfway through the trail, you guys will be able to see if he is peeking himself out. So he's really, really cool. In the picture to the right of that is a brown water snake or a northern water snake. That is a little baby. I actually saw him on the Bakoven Trail over at the Great Swamp, and he was really, really cute. Even at that small, that little guy tried to bite me, and he was a real pain in the butt, but I mean, still adorable. In the bottom left is a picture of a redback salamander that was flipped under a log. So you guys can see that bright orange and red coloration in the middle of that picture. That is the salamander. And then in the picture to the bottom right is a picture of a cricket frog that I was able to see for the first time. So if you guys look in the middle, you guys see that bright green stripe and you guys can see the eyes like kind of poking right out of the water. So that was really, really cool. A really beautiful species of frog that I saw with some Girl Scouts actually. And that was the first time and I genuinely fell in love. And the picture to the right is a beautiful picture of a tree right outside of the visitor center that was blooming its flowers. So I thought that was really cool and a really beautiful thing for me to personally see. And again, this is the swamp scene picture article on the left-hand side. And you guys can see me in the top right with my old coworker, Lucy Crespo from Groundwork. And that is us over at Phil Rizzuto Park. So that was a really good time. And then also my degree from Kane University. So you guys can see that I'm not lying and I actually am kind of sort of qualified at what I do. So that was really cool. I didn't really know what it was until I opened it up and I maybe screamed like a little girl, but we're not going to talk about that. And also, this is the White Oak Trail. That is a really old photo. Like I said, it's from April, so it's a couple months old. And right now, if you guys go to the White Oak Trail, it is completely different because that phase of the trail is finished and it's really beautiful. The volunteers did an absolutely amazing job. So thank you to our construction crew, even though you are not on this call. If you see the video, just know I'm shouting you guys out. And to the right is a video of those tadpoles from the wood frogs that I was showing you guys in the previous slide. So as you guys can see, that is one small pile compared to how many that I actually saw that day. But there's about like 30 or 40 just right there. And they're all bunched up. There's literally hundreds of them all over the place. And it's crazy because that's exactly where water snakes like to congregate. So I guess they know that they breed over there and they're just like, oh, wow, like this is pretty much free food. So I don't really know how many of those tadpoles survived, but I mean, hey, it was still really cool to see them over there and that they made it at least that far. So the month of May was very, very exciting. A lot of nerve-wracking stuff happening in May. It was after all of the work that I did with the window measurements and making a presentation, I had to speak with my boss, Anna Harris, and her boss, which was Mike Horn. He is the Refuge manager for the entire complex. So basically I had to convince him that getting bird safety products implemented at all of the refuges on the complex was a good idea. And I had to speak to him to make sure that, and pretty much convince him to get it funded. And I was disgustingly nervous and it was really, really scary because that was the first time that I ever had to do something like of that level. And the presentation went really well. Everything got put through. And now if you guys come and visit either the Great Swamp Visitor Center or the Cherry Valley Visitor Center, we do have bird safety stuff up. So obviously it was successful. So I'll be able to show you guys some pictures and a little bit of that as well. I did Great Swamp advertising over at a trailside museum at, what place was that? I can't remember exactly where we did it off the top of my head. I had multiple corporate work days, and corporate work days are when work corporations, people who work in an office pretty much all the time, they come out and they volunteer stuff like their time and their efforts over at the Refuge. So we did a couple of things with whether it was trail maintenance, working on the garden beds, taking out invasive plants and all that good stuff. So it was really, really cool. We had a Hike It Baby event. And so basically Hike It Baby is a nonprofit from the state of Oregon, and they work with underprivileged families and try and get them out in nature in very urban environments. So we worked with a women's shelter called Josephine's Place over in Elizabeth, and we bussed over about 30 women and their children over to Phil Rizzuto Park, had giveaways, provided food. And even though it wasn't the nicest day weather-wise, we were completely soaked and everything was drenched and we almost basically like flooded the park. It was still a really, really good time. And we were able to provide those families a really, really great experience. I graduated that month, so that was really exciting. I set up a bear trap with the New Jersey Fish and Wildlife Service. So that was really, really cool. And I actually gave tours at the WOC trails while also experiencing some really cool wildlife as well. So I have a video for you guys on the left, but I'll play that afterwards. The picture in the top middle is us at the Hike It Baby event. So those are the Hike It Baby women, Anna Harris, my old coworker Lucy, and then me all the way on the right. So as you guys can see, the park was basically flooded It was really, really obnoxious how the weather turned out that day, but I still really, really enjoyed myself, and it was a really, really beautiful experience. That picture to the right is a picture of me and my sisters with my aunt's name. Well, my aunt actually got named she had her name put on a street name in the city of Newark. So the woman that passed away in January, they named the street after her. So she was very, very influential. She was actually the only woman in my family with a degree. So I'm trying to just follow her footsteps and make as much of an impact as she did. That picture in the bottom left is my father, my uncle, and my mother after graduation. So that was really, really cool. Having them there and being able to celebrate afterwards was beautiful. The picture in the middle is me in my graduation capping gown over at the Kane Skylands campus. And the picture on the right is me screaming as that garter snake is biting my hand. So my girlfriend captured that perfectly. And honestly, it wasn't really that fun. Getting bit by snakes isn't always a good time. So if you don't want to get bit, just please don't touch them. But I mean, hey, I do it for fun. So that's just how it goes. But I just wanted to show you this video real quick. That is a northern water snake cruising over the water. And then as you guys can see, when I zoom in, there's a beautiful spotted turtle, which is the state threatened species that was swimming literally right next to it. So really, really cool. If you guys have never seen one, I thought it was really cool because they're not as as often seen over at the WOC.
Aren't they pretty when they're down there and not up here?
They move so gracefully.
So I thought that was really cool and just wanted to show you guys again.
That one's definitely smaller than the one we saw.
That's also Lucy's voice in the background. Oops, there we go. So now we have June. So June was very eventful. I had some projects that I started in the beginning of the year starting to come together. Lots of really cool events that I was a part of, and an amazing wildlife experiences highlighted this month. So this was actually my first close encounter with a barred owl. So everybody over at the Great Swamp talks about how amazing the owls are and all this stuff. And it took from January to June for me to actually see one. And it was probably the coolest wildlife experience that I had all year. I have a really cool picture that I'll show you guys in a second. We had flooding over at the swamp. We had a Cops and Bobbers event, which was held at a park, I'm pretty sure if I'm not mistaken, in Montclair, where we had officers and partnered with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and we had a volunteer fishing event. So anybody that was walking in the park was able to fish. We taught people how to cast with fly fishing and all that good stuff. So it was a really, really good time. I had the Agents of Discovery training with Girl Scouts. I was a trail guide for a 60 student, 60 students came to the Great Swamp and walked the trails. So that was really cool. I was their trail guide and showed them around the swamp for about an hour or two. That was very, very eventful as well because they didn't really speak English. So I had to have a translator with me the entire time, but still a beautiful experience either way. I did a cleanup with Groundwork Elizabeth for Pride Month. I worked on more bird safety at the swamp. I actually became archery certified through NASP, which is National Archery Schools program. And so that was really cool. And I also shaved my face and nobody recognized me. So if you guys can see some pictures of me beardless, I apologize in advance. So that picture was taken over at the WOC trails where the video of the snake and the turtle were just before this. That barred owl was maybe like 15, 20 feet away from us. And it was absolutely beautiful. We had so many people coming by to try and take pictures. It sucked because I don't have a fancy camera like other people do. So I actually took this with my phone up to my binoculars. And I was able to zoom in really well and get this like halfway decently clear photo. And it almost looks like a vintage kind of look to it. So I thought it was really beautiful. And that was probably like the coolest picture that I've taken all year. And yeah, genuinely beautiful experience. It was really cool because we had a red-winged blackbird pretty much like attacking it the entire time. And she was actually hunting as well. She dove down in the water. She didn't get anything, but it was still a really cool experience to see that up close. Because some people never get to see it at all, let alone 15, 20 feet away from you. So that was a really, really cool experience. Here's more wildlife stuff. See, I'm not just like a reptiles and amphibians guy. I actually saw some other cool things, like some mammals and some birds. In this top left, you see a massive, massive, massive snapping turtle with a very small painted turtle basking right on top of his shell. So the thing that the turtle is floating on is a snapping turtle shell. And if you look a little more to the top left, you could see the turtle's head peeking out the water. The picture in the middle is I stumbled upon a den of foxes, of fox babies. So there was about 4 of them sitting there running around, playing with each other. And when they saw my car, they all went away. So I had to kind of stay there motionless for like 15, 20 minutes for them to come back out again. But it was really cool being able to see them playing, wrestling with each other. I saved turtles off the road. So in that top right, I had a common musk turtle crossing the road over by the bridge that is now under construction. And obviously you could see he was not happy because he was sitting there with his mouth open trying to bite me. On the bottom left is a picture of bluebird eggs from the bluebird boxes that Tom Gula manages. So we were able to look through that stuff and see the bluebird eggs, and they are way more blue in person than the camera actually shows. Like I mentioned before with the Great Swamp flooding, I took this really cool photo of a painted turtle swimming across the road over at over by the visitor center. So that was really cool. And when I was doing trail maintenance in this bottom right photo, you could see another gray tree frog that was sitting in the corner that was calling to all the other frogs that were in the area. So I heard like probably like 2 or 3 different calls that day, but that was the only one that I was actually able to see. And then this was the Cops and Bobbers event. As you guys can see with the smile on my face in that right-hand photo, that I was the happiest person there because I caught my first and only fish that day in that moment. And to the left is why I thought that my boss was the coolest guy that I've ever met in my life, because he is holding a really big common snapping turtle, but he grabbed it with a net and then just reached into the water and grabbed it with one hand and was literally just holding it like it was like a toy and like it wasn't alive, and it doesn't have probably the most powerful jaws in the state. And if he was one slip away, it literally could have taken off his finger, but he was walking around with it like it wasn't even anything to him. And I was like, wow, this guy right here is somebody that I want to be when I grow up. And he grabbed the turtle and literally just tossed it right back into the lake where we were at. And I was like, wow, that was really cool. But yeah, Jared Green, a man of many talents. And obviously one of them is turtle guy. So July was really exciting. When July hit, it actually started to dawn on me that my internship was coming to an end sooner rather than later. And I started realizing like, holy crap, like what's going on, what's going to happen after this. And I started kind of seeing like all of my projects and all of my hard work start to come to fruition, and realize like, oh, wow, like what's going to be my next move? But I still had to work. So some of the stuff that I did in July, I did a Snakes of Great Swamp presentation. I became famous again because we were featured on a PBS documentary about the Great Swamp. I did more saving turtles off the roads. I created content for social media. I did some urban bird treaty city meetings. I worked with more school groups, and I did a training on reptiles and amphibians over for Kane University. Where's my mouse? There we go. It was also my niece and my nephew's second birthday. So that is my nephew Jet yelling at his sister Zelda because she had ice cream cake on her face. So I thought that was the most priceless picture ever. And when I saw that photo, and I was like, I need everybody else to see this too. They definitely needed to make their appearance. In the bottom left is a baby snapping turtle that I saved off the road in the same area that I got that common musk turtle. The bottom right is me presenting for the Snakes of the Great Swamp National Wildlife Refuge presentation. And in the top right is the famous Tom Gula.
Some of the people you're seeing work for Fish and Wildlife Service,
and that's me.
Government, and others are volunteers assisting and working side by side with them, complementing what they do.
So if anybody hasn't gotten a chance to see that documentary, all you have to do is just look up PBS Great Swamp on Google, and you guys will be able to check that out. It's a quick, like 25, 30 minutes, but if you guys are ever interested on some of the things that we do, some of the things that we work with, whether it's volunteer work, whether it's with the government, or just like things that you guys can do over here at the swamp, I would definitely check it out. That is also on the left, a massive water snake that I flipped under a board over at the headquarters. And the snake on the right is a northern brown snake, or a Decay's brown snake. I don't know if you guys can see it, but it's blended in really well, a little higher up in the middle. You guys can probably see his scales and his little head pointed out. I actually put out some cover boards and flipped that snake the day after the presentation that I did. So with the 30+ people that were out in my presentation, we didn't see any snakes. And literally the morning after, I flipped the board, and the second board that I flipped had one under it. So I was a little disappointed, but I mean, hey, at least we got one either way. Everybody else was mad at me and thought I did it on purpose, but I didn't. August. So August was a good month because I was able to travel a bit, see some family, and I was also being productive at work. I met with Kane professors on trying to get bird strike protection over at the Kane University campus. It was actually Groundwork Elizabeth week with the Refuge. I spent some time with old coworkers and friends, and I taught them about the refuges that I work at, and I participated in a lot of really cool events. I met the Fish and Wildlife Services regional director. I went to Cherry Valley and did some trailside cleanups with some volunteers. I killed about 3 million spotted lanternflies, and also did a talk about them as well with Paul Lauber, the man that introduced me in the beginning. And we sent out measurements and sent out an order to this company called Feather Friendly for us to get the materials to put on the windows for the bird strike protection. So the picture on the left is a great blue heron hunting over at the Sportsman's Blind. But if you guys can look down, maybe about a little less than halfway up in the middle, you guys can see what looks like a little log in the middle, but that is actually the head of a massive common snapping turtle sitting there eating vegetation. And if you guys look, you guys can see his huge shell right behind him. So if you guys look in the middle, you guys can see a bird, which is the great blue heron that was hunting there. And then the snapping turtle is a little beneath that. And the right two photos are of Groundwork Elizabeth, of us doing some macroinvertebrate river seining in the streams over at Cherry Valley. So that was really, really cool and a great experience as well. September. So September was obviously automatically the best month ever because I turned 25 on the 5th. So that was really cool. However, besides that, work-wise, we actually received our bird safety material and put it on the buildings. So we put it on 2 separate buildings. We put it on one of the dorms that we have over here at the swamp, and we put it on the visitor center. I did a presentation with the snakes of Walk Hill over at Walk Hill National Wildlife Refuge. I had lots of cool wildlife experiences throughout this month. We had the Great Swamp National Wildlife Refuge Fall Festival, and I also did some new job searching. So around this time is when I realized that I wasn't gonna be, I guess, like hired back within the Fish and Wildlife Service because there weren't any job opportunities at the moment. And that's when I had to realize, like, oh wow, like it's September and my internship is ending in literally the next month. So things started to get real, really, really fast. So I had to start applying to a bunch of different places. So that was really, really stressful and really, really weird too, because I had to talk to my current boss about where I was going to be working next. So he gave me some really, really great tips, helped me out a lot. And basically moral of that story is don't be afraid to talk to your bosses about anything because they are definitely there to help you rather than hinder you. So the picture on the left is a ribbon snake and a garter snake that we saw during my Walk Hills, the Snakes of Walk Hill presentation that we had. The picture in the middle is me at my birthday dinner with my girlfriend. The picture on the top right is of me with my niece, Francesca. She was about 6 months there and weighs almost as much as I do. And the bottom right is a picture of Jason, Colin, and Anna putting up the bird safety strike stuff over at the dormitory. So that if you guys look, you guys can see the dots on the windows. Basically what those do is it reflects back to the birds and shows them that there's something physically there. Instead of them flying and crashing into the windows, they see that there's something there and that they can't physically fly through that. And it basically reduces them from crashing into the windows, reduces them from, obviously, when they crash into the windows, they could break their neck, they could die, they could break wings, legs, beaks, whatever. So it stops a lot of bird strikes that we have throughout the refuges. And it's definitely needed because it happens a little bit more often than you would think. So I did a lot of work with that. Did a lot of research, did a lot of presentations, went to different refuges and measured all these windows, took calculations, did a bunch of work with it. And for it all to come to reality and putting those up, it kind of showed that after all the hard work and seeing it physically done, it was a really, really big relief to me, because I was like, oh, wow, like I just did so much work on this, and seeing it get approved and seeing it funded properly and then put up, it's going to make a really big difference. And I'm happy that I have my name tied to that. So it was a really, really cool experience, and honestly, a really cool resume builder as well. And finally, the last month. So we are currently in October, and we've only been in October for 9 days. So I mean, like, there's not really too much that I did so far. But in the first of the month, I did that advanced volunteer training on reptiles and amphibians. I trained volunteers on common species that you'll see around the refuge, basic knowledge that you guys will need to tell visitors, to educate them and answer any crazy questions that they had or anything that they've heard. So when visitors come and they have questions to ask, that they get the proper answers from us. And I don't want anybody to have a bad experience when they come over here. So anything that I could teach somebody, whether they know it or not, whether it's just refreshing their memory or it helps me learn as well. So I was really, really grateful and happy with the opportunity to be able to do that. I did a Cherry Valley Fall Festival, which was literally yesterday. So I had a really, really great experience with that. And also Second Sunday, which is what you guys are at today. So again, thank you guys for coming. So for the rest of October, we have 21 more days of my internship. So what is planned, I have to do interviews. I have a couple more corporate work days that I'm going to be working with Walter on. I have a Great Swamp Watershed School program next week. I have my final position reviews. So I'm going to be meeting with my boss, and they're going to tell me how amazing of a job I did or how awful of an intern I was. So I hope that it's the first one. I mean, hey, if they have criticism, I'll take it. But I really hope that that I did pretty well and that they think so as well. And my last day of my internship is going to be October 30th. So I'm not really looking forward to it. I had a really, really amazing time this last year. I learned a lot. I met a lot of amazing people. And I was really, really surprised at how this even happened and how I even got here in the first place. So again, not one of those things that I ever thought I was going to be doing. It's one of those things that you always think about in my field, working with the Fish and Wildlife Service, because that's like the highest level of work that you could physically be at, working with the government and doing things like this. So the fact that I got that opportunity, the fact that I was able to make an impact on people over this last year, and for all the people that I met, for them to teach me everything that they taught me, for me to learn from them and grow with them, and just enjoy the refuges and enjoy the job with them. I couldn't thank anybody and everybody enough. All the volunteers, all of my staff members, and everybody else in between. There's too many names to name, but everybody knows who they are. So again, a really, really fantastic internship that I had. Definitely the coolest job that I've ever done. Hopefully one day I'll be able to get back into the Fish and Wildlife Service. So hopefully within the next, I don't know, maybe the next couple of years. I don't know where the rest of my career is going to take me, but hey, you never know. And these are two really cool photos that I took over here at the refuge. The other day I was driving through and I saw a very curious fox stop about 10 feet from my car. So me and him made casual eye contact. He gave me the desk there and basically told me to not interrupt his hunting. So I let him kind of go all the way up the road for the next like 15, 20 minutes. And I also had a baby garter snake crossing my car as well on the same stretch of road a couple of days later. So I thought that was really cool, and I wanted to share that with you guys as well. So that is pretty much my year in review. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I had an absolutely amazing internship. I couldn't thank anybody enough for the opportunity for me to be here. and to just, like I said, experience all of this with you guys. If you guys need anything, you guys know where to find me. So again, thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you guys so much for being here. And again, thank you for the opportunity to present to you guys. So had a really great time.
Okay, and we want to thank you, George, for an excellent summary of your internship. That was a very informative presentation. And on behalf of everybody, we wish you all the best.
Thanks, Paul. I appreciate it.